So when I think back about when I came to the NFL,
What year? What
we
year was
now
your rookie year?
there was 1973, 1973. I now look at an NFL now that's based on meritocracy. Color doesn't matter. That means no matter what color you are, how fat, how big you are, if you can bring merit to that team, you'll get yourself a good contract. That speaks volumes. If people understand how far we've come, then all of a sudden, saying we're a racist place doesn't work anymore. I mean, I know what racism looks like. I know what systemic racism looks like. We have an opportunity right now to do anything we want to.
Before we do the policy stuff, I just want to do a little bit more on your history, because as I said earlier, you're one of the three first black people, football players at University of Miami. And then let's talk a little bit about NFL and just sort of how the sports mindset and going for a championship and winning and all that stuff, how that set you up as a human being.
Okay, good question. Let me just first of all kind of put in context the environment of the NFL when I joined as opposed to today. Because I think the biggest part of us being excited about our future is knowing about our past. And it was something that Karl Marx said that said it all. The first battleground is rewriting of history. If they steal our past, we truly do not have an appreciation for where we are, and we have no vision for where we're going. So that being context, again, I grew up in the Deep South, days of segregation. 12 years old, I remember marching. I was the youngest person at that time. I was with the Florida A&M when my dad was a college professor in front of Florida State Theater because we couldn't go in to look at a movie theater there. My dad, just a little extra background, my dad actually came back from war, very proud World War II vet, could not go to get his postgraduate down in Texas because of the Jim Crow laws. And I remember running across a box of letters when he passed away, of all these rejection letters that had gotten across the country that would not accept him to those colleges. And I looked through it and I realized it was a racist thing, but he never ever brought it out. He never talked about it. For him, it was motivation. And that's what those folks do. There was motivation. He ended up going to Ohio State where he got his PhD. He ended up being a 40-year professor there and was an entrepreneur, researcher. We traveled around the world. I was 5 years old, living in Liberia, Africa. That's the environment. This is the 50s. I had an older uncle. By the way, he and his older brother both got their PhDs at Ohio State. Dad got in agronomy. Uncle Lima got it in economics. We ended up teaching at the University of Houston. The oldest brother was probably the smartest one. He was an engineer, and he loved planes, but he couldn't do that when he went to service. So he, on a part-time basis, he ended up buying this is 1962. Nobody bought planes in 1962, particularly black folks. But he bought a little plane, and because he was entrepreneurial, he was an engineer, but he lived in Wichita Falls, Texas. He took letters from Wichita Falls base, the military base, to Chicago. That was his side-time business, the first FedEx. And I remember him flying to Tallahassee, and I must have been maybe 12 years old when I had my first flight in an airplane. And I remember that experience very well because he took me up, and I don't know if you know what the stall. I'm sure you know what stall means, what it is all about. But if you don't know what a stall means, it's good to know before you stall, before you get the experience. It feels like falling out of the air. And I remember stalling, getting panicked. He kind of got control, smiled at me, and taught me what airplane lift was. I know today exactly what airplane lift means. But I'm making that point.
It ain't fun either way.
No. I'm making that point because I want people to know that my community was truly one of the most competitive communities in our country, one that we're so proud of. We educated ourselves because we knew that's what we needed to do to compete. My degree was in biology. My minor was chemistry. Why was I comfortable to do that? Because my dad was a college professor. He had a laboratory. I felt very comfortable. And the most important thing is when I was told by someone in high school that I could not do that, I made it my duty. I lived in the library at University of Miami to prove that guy wrong, because that's the attitude we had in those days. So that was the environment. Again, I went to University of Miami. I was drafted to the Jets. When I got to the Jets, this is the way it was in those days. There was no black quarterbacks, centers, free safeties, or middle linebackers. In those days, the message of the Democratic Party was that black people couldn't think. We were not leaders. We could run, we could jump, we could play music, but thinking was out of our wheelhouse. By the way, to that point, when you go back and see Martin Luther King, you see the marching, I want you now to keep this in context when you see them. Notice he has white shirts, black ties, sometimes business caps, and always business shoes, because they were going against the narrative of the leftists, of the racists, of illiterate, lazy, bumpkins, can't talk, all the negatives you can possibly think of. And they were showing in the way they marched and the discipline and nonviolent that they were totally off base. And they wanted to make sure their kids understood that not to take the narrative of these people, to be proud of who you are. So I just wanted to put that in there. So when I think back about when I came to the NFL.
What year was your rookie year?
That was 1973. 1973. I now look at an NFL now that's based on meritocracy. Color doesn't matter. That means no matter what color you are, how fat, how big you are, if you can bring merit to that team, you'll get yourself a good contract. That speaks volumes. If people understand how far we've come, then all of a sudden, saying we're a racist place doesn't work anymore. I mean, I know what racism looks like. I know what systemic racism looks like. We have an opportunity right now to do anything we want to. I can not only go into a theater, I can own a series of them if I wanted to. But it comes down to recognizing that the differential in every single race, every single person in terms of success is based on those 4 tenets. Very simple to understand. And I think it's time that we find a way to explain conservatism, explain the American way, the entree to the middle class simply. We spend too much time trying to debate it when it comes to the 4 tenets: head, heart, hands, and home. Education, faith, industry, and family. It's that simple. If we educate ourselves, we no longer can be manipulated by the leftists who wants to keep us dumb and motivated by emotion. If we understand that faith is the answer to everything, this is the country was built on Judeo-Christian values, period. And no matter how we worship him, the reason why we look at each other from inside out versus outside in, better than any other country, is we believe there's a God in heaven that makes us want to bless. We want the blessings by blessing others. Industry, we now understand as a country that we're not that country that wants a 10-month vacation. That's just not us. We want to work. We want to sweat. We want to, man, fall flat and get back up because we feel good about the process. That's who we are, and that's why we've always led the entire world in terms of producing things. That's in the DNA of our American people. The last but not least is our family. The family unit dictates where our country goes and how high we fly. And that's why the left has been after us for a long time, destroying the family unit. We should always think about, very simply, the way I was brought up, is the best thing I could do is I want to make sure that my family's name is one that's respected. It's a legacy to my dad, my mom. If I do the kind of things where they're proud of, that I carry their name, and I do the same thing to my kids, then we have done a great deed for our country and for my family and for my race and as a citizen. That all works out. So the family is really the key point, and we just have to get back to understanding what that means and what the roles might be and all that kind of stuff. That was a long answer to a short question, but I hope I got there, buddy.
I think you got there. So you mentioned the meritocracy of the NFL now, and I think that goes obviously for all professional sports at this point. Nobody cares what color you are. It's, can you play? I mean, and for me, I'm a basketball guy, but when I play ball my entire life, any court that I showed up to, nobody cared if you were white or black or Asian or anything else. What do you care about? Can the guy put the ball in the hole? That's the only thing that you care about.
Just win, baby.
Yeah, just win, baby. That's it. There's a certain beauty and a simplicity to that. But when you see things, how politicized sports has become. So you may remember about a year ago, there was a big thing in the NBA that the players didn't want the owners to call them owners because that somehow had some connotations to slavery or something. But the simple fact is they own the team. I mean, they own the team. That's how it works. When you hear these things and you hear it from people that are multi-millionaires that make money that you could never. Do you remember how much you made your rookie year?
I'm almost ashamed. Now keep in mind, first round draft choice. Get ready. First round draft choice, the 13th pick, the first defensive back. My bonus was $50,000 a year, $50,000, and I made 20, 23, 25, and 27 the first 3 years. And those last those years were not guaranteed, by the way. Had to go out and make that happen. But no,
Right. Now, guys,
it's
you
crazy.
get like an 8-year guaranteed $100 million.
It's crazy.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.